So I would like you all to I don't know how often you get invited to Mars, right? So I do hope you have a chance to come down. Mars itself is a non-profit organization, and it is set up to take advantage of both the economic and social impact of Canadian innovation. So one of the themes I'm going to talk about tonight is looking at the existing innovation centers and how we can add social innovation into that mainstream agenda. SiG stands, we don't speak in words anymore, right? Just SiG. So SiG is Social Innovation Generation, and I run SiG MaRS. And what we do is three main things: advise, convene, and accelerate. We work with social ventures, and for us, social ventures are both nonprofits with a revenue-generating component, with ideally the opportunity for systems transformation. We work with for-profits that have a double or triple bottom line, meaning they want to make money, but they also have a social impact or environmental impact. So that's the double or triple bottom line. We work with social entrepreneurs to try to build up their skills. And again, social entrepreneurs apply entrepreneurial principles to social issues. We're looking at the whole area of social finance, which is really thinking about money differently. When we think about supporting social purpose work, we think grants and donations. But social finance is how do we understand private capital and mobilize that for public good. Technology, we do a lot of work in the technology space, and on June 6th, we are hosting the 4th Net Change Week, which is a whole week-long event at Mars of technology for social change. We do it with Canada Helps, and so if you're interested in learning more about Twitter and Facebook and how you use that for your purposes. And we're doing a whole lot of different events around mobile tech. So the phone is the most powerful thing imaginable now. How do we actually use that for social change? And finally, we're trying to build out the social enterprise community. And we do that through things like education. We're looking at a school for social entrepreneurs. There's one in the UK, recently launched in Australia. Does Ontario need one of those? We are looking at, we have a course called Entrepreneurship 101, where people are just welcome to come and learn about how to write a business plan, understanding marketing, understanding intellectual property. It's a free course at Mars every Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30. There's 250 to 300 people that come every Wednesday night, and 7,000 people who are registered online. So you put the kids to bed, watch the session, replay it as often if you wanted. The concepts are working for you, backed up by whole entrepreneurial look download template business plan, whatever you need. Do-gooder. Does anybody know Jump Math? John Leighton? Great. So John Leighton is a Order of Canada recipient. He's a famous playwright, an award-winning playwright. But he also struggled with math as a kid. He got over it. He managed to do a PhD in mathematics. And this is a scene from, you can't really see it very well, I apologize. It's a scene from Good Will Hunting. Do you remember Good Will Hunting? Right, so John makes me say this. It was taken a long time ago. So if you run into him on the street, you don't go, my God, John, what happened to you? But it was taken a long time ago. And I do have some of these brochures with me that you can get. So John came to us because he's got junior undiscovered math prodigy, Jump Math. Wanted to sell workbooks, said I couldn't sell a workbook if my life depended on it. We said, John, put it online. You got to think about how you do this differently. He said, I'm the founder. I know I'm in the way of the executive director. So we tried to find a role for John that was about consulting to the board, some kind of role that gave him an honorarium and recognized his place, but didn't mess up the ED who they kept burning through. And also we tried to figure out, who are the right kind of people that you need on your board? What evidence do you need to break into the education system? Because innovation in education is a challenge, right? We have lots of great ideas, but breaking it in. So, there was a really great quotes in your film. Congratulations on that. For us, most simply, social innovation is about new ideas that work to address old social problems. And this little thing in the middle is a postcard, which we think shows that social innovation is a Canadian natural. It's what we do. If you think about the Women's Institute. Now, I've studied women's issues. I didn't know that the Women's Institute started in Stony Creek, Ontario. It's a forerunner to the women's movement. I read about that in a UK publication of the top 100 social innovations of all time. We are not good at telling our own story. We are not good about using the right kind of language to promote what we do. Medicare, put a jump mat there. Greenpeace started here as well. So it's what we do. It may be different language, but it's Canadian. I work with this national collaborative of groups, the McConnell Foundation of Montreal, the University of Waterloo is our academic node. We work with Plan Institute, which is out in British Columbia. And Francis Wesley, who's the thought leader who wrote Getting to Maybe, which is a great book in this space if you're interested, came up with this definition. It says, social innovation is an initiative, product, or process that profoundly changes beliefs, basic routines, resource and authority flows of any system in the direction of greater resilience. Resilience is a fundamental component of what we do. Successful social innovations have durability, impact, and scale. And at MaRS, we're trying to provide a dedicated solution-seeking space. When I talked about social ventures being in both the for-profit and the non-profit realm, there's a guy in the UK called Venturesome, and he came up with this sort of continuum from social impact, which is an operational charity that maybe just thinks about grants, all the way to the other end, which is a pure commercial enterprise, which maybe on a good day they go to check the support of charity. So my job is to put pressure on both ends of the spectrum to get to a place where we have a hybrid legal structure or a blended value proposition, thinking differently about how charities sustain themselves, not dependent on the grant economy, and thinking about corporations and how they can not just write checks, but actually use their full range of resources for a social and financial purpose. It's a really great article in the Harvard Business Review, February edition, which is called Creating Shared Value. Michael Porter and Mark Kramer wrote it, and it's a really new way of what they're calling reinventing capitalism. It's exactly what we're talking about, but with different language. And way better Porter says it than me. They will listen to him. So social ventures in both the non-profit space. You think about Habitat for Humanity. They have e-stores. You think about Well of Change, which is these young. Does anybody know Well of Change? Yeah, great. So these two young folks. One had an event background. One had a computer background. They said, our friends want to volunteer. They want to support charities. They have neither money nor time. So you say, okay, so Sam, you're a great photographer, and I'm getting married. But if I was getting married, I would say, okay, I'm going to go on this website and say, oh, look it, Sam's willing to provide photography services. I'm going to hire her. So it's $200. I pay my $200. You do the photography at the wedding. When it's done, I pay my $200, and it goes to the charity of your choice. So you get to actually do what you love to do, which is photography. I get a service, and it supports a charity. So innovative new ways of thinking differently about how we encourage engagement. On the for-profit side, there's places like Bullfrog Power or Turnaround Couriers, which hires right out of shelters, but it's set up as a for-profit enterprise. So I'm going to whip along because I don't have very much time. Lots of links to public policy in this space. The Ontario Poverty Reduction Strategy, a whole section on social innovation. And we're looking at this actual corporate legal structure based on things like in the UK, they have community interest companies. I'm sorry. And then in the US, they have something called L3Cs, low profit limited liability corporations. In Canada, I wrote a report on legislative innovations. It's a white paper. I have a copy of it here. I gave it to the government, and they said, thank you. I think we're ready for when they're ready. But we are looking at B corporations, which is like an ISO set of standards for those with a blended value that actually have changed the articles of incorporation to include not only shareholders but also the stakeholder interest. I'm thinking about what's happening around the world and how I bring that to Ontario. For us, we have completely integrated through co-location our services into MaRS, so I can take advantage of all the stuff that's available. You have a great idea for a social venture and you want market intelligence to see is there a market for it, I can get you that. We give out $12 million of free market intelligence annually. It's a huge benefit. If you want access to a mentor, we can do that. If you have a technology platform, we can get you some access to the networks around that. The social finance world is really exploding. We look at a socialfinance.ca website, a lot of disparate resources, thinking about putting that together in some kind of center of excellence or a center for impact investing. We're still playing with the language, but impact investors are people who think about philanthropy this way, investing this way, and bring them together so they actually invest for social and financial return. It's a big movement globally, and we're trying to create a way into that movement for people here in Canada. Lots of work around social policy, research, and hopefully working with all of you to figure out what this means for Ontario, for Canada, and how we integrate that into a larger innovation agenda. For-profits think about research and development, non-profits are called overhead and get punished for doing it. We've got to change the thinking around this and use all the best minds that we've got to solve our intractable social problems, because none of us can do it alone. So fast. Did I say within 10 minutes? Yay!